Today we're going to be talking about millennials and Gen Z. Will you ever be able to buy a house? I've been a lender for 18 years and my team and I lend across America. So all 50 states, we're watching people get into homes. My biggest pet peeve right now is headlines like this. Millennials are getting screwed out of buying a house. The millennial dream to buy a home has ended. Millennials, the unhappy reality behind the American dream. Same type of headlines for Gen Z. And it's everywhere. You see it on social media, right? You've got YouTube. Oh my gosh, guys, the YouTubers love to tell you you can never buy a house. Do you know why? Clicks and views, right? Whether it's YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, even the media, the people you're supposed to be able to trust. Now stop laughing, guys. 10, 15 years ago, the media, CNN, Fox, whichever one, right? People trusted them. Over the last 5 years, okay, what we've seen is the whole model on how news sources get paid has changed. So before I get too deep into this, let me start by saying this. I am seeing a ton of Gen Z and millennials buy houses. No, you are not screwed. If you do a historical deep dive and you look at news headlines over the last 100 years, I'm not kidding, you will see that every generation has been told that housing's unaffordable and they're screwed. There has never been a time in history that I could find when a news source said, yes, buy a house today. Never, okay? And look, even back in the day, right? Think about it. Let's go old-timey. And if you're very young, just imagine, put on a newsboy hat, throw the papers out. If you saw a headline that said, nobody can afford a house, you'd want to read the article, right? If the headline said, you should buy a house, you'd be like, oh, they're just trying to sell me something, right? Back in the day, newspapers had limited distribution, right? We're in a new world, okay? And we're in the world where news sources get paid by clicks and views. And guess what? The more clicks and views you get, the more money you make. And the sad part about society is that negativity sells. Yeah, guys, I did a crazy headline on this and you clicked it. That's right. I baited you, friends, to tell you that no, you're not doomed. Yes, you can buy a house. Seriously. Now, here's the other thing that the media loves to cover that's total bullshit. They love saying that everything's unaffordable. Housing prices are $1 million to buy a condo. Okay. Certain parts of the country are ridiculous. I will agree with that, okay? I live in one of them. I live in Miami Beach. The prices there are insane. They're insane. They're crazy. New York City, like you start off, if you want to be in the main city, at studio, $800,000, right? LA is actually one of the most expensive places in the United States. You've got limited inventory. Now we had the fires. It is the perfect recipe for really high prices. Am I seeing that in Oklahoma? No. Am I seeing that in Kentucky? No. Am I seeing that in North or South Carolina? No. Virginia, parts of it very expensive, some of it is not. Okay? So look, if you're a millennial or a Gen Z and you feel dead inside because everyone's been telling you you can't buy a house, let me tell you right now, you can, okay? You just have to start planning. And look, you may already be ready. That's what I hear more often than not from people that watch this channel, whether they're 20 or 80. What I consistently hear is, I never thought I could buy a house until I saw your channel. So here's the deal, guys. Credit. If your credit's terrible, clean it up, right? Clean it up. Does it have to be perfect? No. Do I need you to be paying your bills on time for at least the last year, ideally? Yes, okay? That's not too hard. And you're like, well, but Jen, my score is 640. Okay, so like 640, I can do conventional FHA, VA. Okay, well, my credit score is 580. Okay, 580, I'm gonna do FHA or VA. My credit score is 400. Okay, FHA and conventional are gonna be out for me, but if you're a veteran and you don't have any lates within a year, I can do something, right? And you may be watching this going, oh my gosh, she's giving loans to people with 400 credit scores. Like, credit scores, the way that they do the scoring model, I don't even think it's that accurate judge of some risk levels, right? I've seen credit scores that are crazy low, but it's from stuff that happened 5 years ago and they just haven't rebuilt credit. I've seen credit scores that are high, but that people are drowning in debt. So credit scores, you know, it depends on the product, but don't beat yourself up. There is a way. Down payment, people go, oh, I'll never be able to save 20%. Why are you trying to? You don't need 20%. The only time you're gonna need 20%, seriously, truly, is if you are buying a house over $3 million, okay? And look, if you're buying a $4 million house, yes, you should have 20% saved, okay? But if you're looking at buying a house anywhere in the United States, not a veteran, okay? You're gonna live there. This is all an owner-occupied video. 3% down, guys. 3% down. So 500K house, that's 15,000 down. And you're like, oh, but closing costs are so much. I've got to save for that too. Let's get the seller to pay it, guys. That's the thing. There's so many ways to negotiate. There's so many ways to get into a house if you know the tricks, right? And they're not even tricks. It's just negotiating. But the big thing is like, if you look at the articles about, oh, you need 20%, you need to pay the seller's closing costs. A lot of times they're talking to a real estate agent that does no business, that doesn't know how to get people in houses, or they're in a super, super luxury market that has 2 houses for sale a year. It's not a reflection of reality. So my message to you is simple. Yes, you can buy a house. You just have to know how. And it doesn't matter if you're 20 or 80. The key things are always going to be, are you in an area with some level of affordable housing that you can afford, okay? Go online, go to homes.com, look at what's for sale around you. And if you're like, oh, it's just all so expensive. Guys, I'll be honest. I moved from California to Florida about 2 years ago, close to 3 now. And we ended up in Miami Beach because that's what we knew, and we were renting. If you follow my videos, you know I'm conservative when it comes to money. And I wanted to make sure I liked it before I bought because it's very expensive. I'm now in the place where I'm sick of renting and I'm looking at buying, and I'm looking around the area and I'm like, you know? So I'm starting to look outside of the area, right? I can work remote. And I think that's something that a lot of people who work remote don't think about. They look at a market, I'm using Miami Beach as an example, and they go, oh, I work remote, I can't afford this, but this is where I want to live. Guys, branch out, right? I'm going to look at Hollywood. I'm going to look at Boca. I'm going to look at Jacksonville. I'm looking all around the coast of Florida, friends. And that's the mindset you want to get to is, hey, if I want to buy a house and I'm somewhere unaffordable and I can work remote, go find somewhere affordable so that you can have a quality of life. Now, if you're like, oh, I can't work anywhere else and it's so unaffordable here. This is the one that I've always thought was interesting. It's like, can you get a similar job in an area that's more affordable? Because a lot of times you can, but people just end up in this rat race mentality where they're stuck in these crazy unaffordable areas. It's like, look, would I want to work in San Francisco for a $50,000 a year job? No, I wouldn't. That's totally unrealistic. You're going to have to commute from far away. You know, there's not a lot of affordable housing unless you're lucky enough to get in on a lottery type situation. That job, could you have that same job somewhere else? You know, if, for example, let's say you're an assistant, right? Okay, assistant in San Francisco, 50K, you could go to Texas or to another affordable state and make the same amount. So open your mind to that. Start thinking about all your options, because right now you guys are all just being told you can't have anything. You're going to be a renter forever, and you're seeing it from all angles. And what you need to understand is that everybody that's telling you that, every time you click, they are financially benefiting. You know who else is benefiting? all those big corporations that have been sitting on cash for the last few years, remember them? They bought up housing markets in 2020 through 2022. They did the same thing after the 2008 foreclosure crisis. Research it. You know, Atlanta right now is over 30% investor owned. So if you guys aren't trying, if you guys are just giving up, they win. I don't want to live in a world like that. You know, it's one of the reasons I talk to my son about housing all the time. He's 21. You know, as soon as he's out of college, he's going to be looking for that first house once he has a job. It's very important to start planning now. So look, anytime you see those headlines, I want you to just go, money haters, money haters. They're hating on your future so they can make money. I know you guys can do it. Questions, comments, if you want help planning, reach out to myself and my team. We're here to help. Like, we'll answer questions. You don't have to immediately fill out an application. If you're thinking of buying in 2 years and you're like, hey, this is what I'm thinking, does this sound realistic? Book a time on our calendar. Literally, I have 2 gals hired, licensed loan officers, just to answer your questions. The American dream is alive and well. You just have to know how to get there. Thanks for watching, guys.